The scene that took Gilligan's Island off air. A legendary television program that transmitted its final episode on April 17, 1967, has remained on the air for many years since. The three-season series Gilligan's Island is about castaways attempting to escape the island, and it provides plenty of chuckles along the way. Embark on the SS Minnow for a trip behind the scenes of the most watched television programs of all time, complete with hilarious outtakes. The millionaire's wife really was a millionaire. Natalie Schafer portrayed Mrs. Lovey Howell, also known as the millionaire's wife according to the introductory theme. The only reason she accepted the role was because she would receive a complimentary vacation to Hawaii to film the pilot episode. Since she was a real-life millionaire, she could have without a doubt paid for her own Hawaii vacation. Since she had no offspring, the majority of her fortune passed to her poodle upon her passing. After the death of her poodle, this sum was to be donated to the Motion Picture and Television Fund. Marianne's co-star on Gilligan's Island, Dawn Wells, is also rumored to have received a portion of her wealth. Wells resided with Schafer and cared for her during her breast cancer battle. Raquel Welch almost wound up on the show. Prior to the premiere of the program, the producers had planned to substitute the least popular characters. The professor, played by John Gabriel, a high school science teacher, Ginger, played by Kit Smith, who was originally a secretary and not a movie celebrity, and Bunny, played by Nancy McCarthy, who was also a secretary. These were low-ranking characters. Ginger's character was transformed from a secretary to a movie actress, and Bunny was supplanted by the kind-hearted Marianne. Raquel Welch auditioned for the position, but she was deemed insufficiently girl next door for the part. The executives may have believed this, but we all know that Wells would have been an excellent candidate for the position. Gilligan's Island stemmed from a question asked by an NYU professor. The program was partially inspired by a New York University lecturer who taught a public speaking course. In one class, he instructed students to prepare a 1-minute monologue in response to the query, "If you were stranded on a desert island, what one item would you want to have with you?" Sherwood Schwartz, one of his students, retained this concern with him long after the course ended. He worked as a comedy writer for television programs and subsequently used the same query from his public speaking class to propose an idea for a sitcom. He believed it would be fascinating for a group of individuals with vastly diverse dispositions to be isolated on an island together. Gilligan's first name isn't Gilligan. Gilligan's actual name was never mentioned. The actor portraying the character, Bob Denver, persisted in the truth of the statement. Schwartz chose the name from a Los Angeles telephone directory, but his real name was Willie. Schwartz acknowledged, "I quarrel with Bob Denver nearly every time I see him. I believe Gilligan is his last name, while he believes it's his first. Willie Gilligan is the genuine identity," according to the original presentation, but Denver refuses to believe or discuss it. One cast member did all her own stunts. Natalie Schafer was in her 60s during the production of the performance, but she performed her own exploits. Some of the exploits included leaping into a lagoon or simulated quicksand. She told the Let's Be Beautiful columnist Arlene Dahl in 1965 that swimming and an ice cream diet kept her in shape. The special regimen consisted solely of daily consumption of 1 pint of ice cream. Evidently, it worked as she lost 3 pounds in 5 days. Swimming in her private pool certainly helped as well. She acknowledged swimming in her birthday suit. The millionaire was stingy. The actor who played Mr. Howell, also known as the Industrialist, was notoriously thrifty. In the first season, Jim Backus invited Dawn Wells and Natalie Schafer to lunch, but when the bill arrived, he realized he'd forgotten his pocketbook. Eventually, Backus settled his debts. Before the cast departed for their summer break, following the closing celebration, Schafer presented Backus with a $300 tab for the unpaid meals. In the original credits, 2 major characters weren't mentioned. The first season's opening credits concluded with the lyrics, "The movie star," and a photo of Ginger alongside the words, "and also starring Tina Louise as Ginger." The theme song abruptly ended with "and the rest," because Louise's contract stipulated that no one else would appear after her name in the credits. Jim Backus, a veteran of the entertainment industry, was the only other cast member listed in the credits. Bob Denver approached producers during the second season of the program and requested that Russell Johnson and Dawn Wells be added to the opening credits. He argued that their characters were as essential as the other characters in the program. There was tension between some cast members. In the January 23, 1965 issue of TV Guide, it was reported that Tina Louise and the rest of the cast had tensions. The article stated, "Neither Denver nor any of the other castaways will explain why they do not get along with the glamorous Tina. They simply neglect her and she ignores them. While the other 6 principal actors converse and tell stories between sequences, she sits alone." And recently, when invited to pose for photographs with her, Denver adamantly declined. Louise was dissatisfied with the series because she had expected to be the main character. This is apparently what her agent proposed to her. The Coast Guard received interesting telegrams about the castaways. Some extremely bewildered spectators believed the show's 1964 premiere was genuine. This resulted in Good Samaritans contacting the Coast Guard to assist the stranded individuals. Producer Sherwood Schwartz received a message from the Coast Guard and some viewer correspondence. A letter from a very concerned viewer stated, "We have seen American citizens isolated on some Pacific island for several weeks now. We spend millions on international aid. Why not dispatch a single U.S. destroyer to rescue these starving people before they perish?" Mary Ann was a fan favorite. According to rumor, Dawn Wells received nearly 5,000 admirer letters per week. During an interview with the Vancouver Sun, she revealed that she received a considerable amount of admirer correspondence, but not that much. Some of the letters were extremely unsettling. Once an admirer wrote Wells a letter stating that it was their anniversary and that he had been writing to her for 35 years. She stated, "I'd say some of the admirers have quite a vivid imagination. It's a fascinating aspect of males that they follow you." The reason behind love. Her wardrobe could have been a contributing factor to the attention. Mary Ann, played by Dawn Wells, was the first television character to wear brief shorts. Nonetheless, this was a more practicable choice than one might expect given Wells' height. Speaking on the subject in 2014 for the 50th anniversary of the program, as one of the 2 surviving cast members, she stated, "Ginger was very tall, and everyone else was over 6 feet tall. To make my legs appear longer, I brought the sides of the shorts up and gave them a slight slope." Wells claims that the Smithsonian is very interested in the aforementioned shorts. However, she's unwilling to part with them. Bob Denver almost died on set. In one incident, Bob Denver came dangerously close to death. Gilligan was supposed to be in the Howells cabin, blocking the door with furniture to prevent a lion from entering. Denver was attacked by a cougar in the midst of the incident. Wells stated that his response was to karate chop the lion in a humorous manner. When the lion leapt off the twin mattress it was standing on, they separated and the trainer tackled it in midair. Wells remarked, "Even the trainer had claw marks all over him." Denver stated that his hair stood on end because he was so frightened. There were probably a few bloopers that you missed. Despite the show's flaws, the bloopers they created made it more entertaining to watch. In the episode They're Off and Running, Bob Denver neglected to remove his wedding band prior to production. Over the trees of the lagoon in The Friendly Physician, one can see structures that were likely part of the Los Angeles skyline. One of the most amusing errors occurred in the pilot episode. The opening credits depict the SS Minnow departing port with 8 travelers on board, despite the fact that the theme song states 5 passengers set sail that day. Alan Hale Jr. broke his arm while filming but continued acting. This is a moment that demonstrates Alan Hale Jr.'s dedication as an actor. In Inside Gilligan's Island, Schwartz spoke with Hale at the closing celebration of the first season. Hale informed Schwartz that now that filming is complete, he can properly repair his limb. It appears that he broke it weeks ago and was acting normally the entire time. He fractured his arm by impacting on the stage after missing the crash cushions during a scenario in which he was supposed to fall from a coconut tree. Hale kept it private to prevent filming disruptions. The filming involved transporting coconuts and bringing up Bob Denver. 6 women have played Ginger over the years. Tina Louise disliked the character of Ginger, despite being the ideal match for a flamboyant and attractive starlet. In the show's spin-offs, other actresses assumed the role of Ginger. Judith Baldwin replaced Louise in Rescue from Gilligan's Island and The Castaways on Gilligan's Island after Louise decided to leave the role. On Gilligan's Island, Constance Forsland supplanted her in the Harlem Globetrotters. Jane Webb portrayed Ginger in the 1974 animated series, The New Adventures of Gilligan, and Dawn Wells voiced Marianne and Ginger in the 1982 animated series, Gilligan's Planet. One cast member lied about her age. Fans of the program were surprised to learn Natalie Schaefer's real age during production. She lied about her true age, and it turns out she's more than a decade older than her on-screen spouse, Jim Backus. Schaefer appeared quite youthful for her age. Her employment contract was one of the methods she attempted to conceal her true age. There was a clause prohibiting close-up filming of her so that her alleged wrinkles wouldn't be visible. Tina Louise never fully escaped from Gilligan's Island. Even though other actresses occupied the role of Ginger when Tina Louise desired to depart, she was unable to do so. She faults the program for harming her career, despite the fact that she became a highly successful actress years after the show concluded. She currently resides in New York and is a member of the Actors Studio and the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. She's committed to enhancing the literacy of children. The author donated a portion of the profits from her 2007 book, When I Grow Up, to literacy programs. She's been volunteering at local public institutions since 1996, per a 2013 interview. The Skipper had a real name. Numerous admirers believe Skipper's moniker was simply Skipper. His genuine name was mentioned once at the outset of the program. The first episode, which broadcast in 1964, reveals that Jonas Grumby was Skipper's actual name. It's not been mentioned since. Gilligan's Wake, a non-canonical postmodern novel published in 2003, gave Skipper a murky backstory in which he presumably served with McHale's Navy, Quentin McHale. If it were true, we would appreciate it. Jane Mansfield almost joined the cast. Jane Mansfield was a renowned blonde actress. At the time Gilligan's Island was recast, her career was experiencing a decline. When it was determined that Ginger would become a movie celebrity instead of a secretary, Mansfield was considered for the role of Ginger. Her third spouse advised her to decline the role, so she didn't accept it. Instead, she accepted minor roles in films and made club appearances. A few years later, she perished in an automobile accident en route to a television interview in Louisiana. When this occurred, she was 34 years old. The term "little buddy" wasn't created for the show. The program exposes that the Skipper was a softy beneath his gruff exterior. He frequently referred to Gilligan as his little buddy, but the moniker predated the program. It was merely a phrase used by actor Alan Hale Jr. in real life. Schwartz incorporated the phrase into the show after hearing Hale address his co-stars and crew members by this name occasionally. Hale's die-hard admirers may have heard him use the same moniker in a previous television appearance. In the 1962 episode of The Andy Griffith Show entitled The Farmer Takes a Wife, Hale's character, Big Jeff Pruitt, referred to his companion, Barney, as his little buddy. The ship, SS Minnow, wasn't named after a fish. The boat of the Castaways was named after Newton Minnow, the individual Sherwood Schwartz believed to have destroyed television. In 1961, Minnow served as chairman of the U.S. Federal Communications Commission, or FCC, and was notorious for describing television as a vast wilderness. The boat's prefix, SS, was used for steam-powered vessels at the time, but there may have been hints throughout the program that the ship was propelled by diesel or petroleum. If this were true, the correct prefix for a motor vessel or motor yacht would be MV or MY. Veterans loved Marianne. Marianne was unquestionably the audience darling, especially among men. However, it appears that the character has extensive connections to military veterans. Dawn Wells stated in an interview with Forbes that her character meant a great deal to Vietnam War veterans at the time. She stated, "Many Vietnam veterans have said that Marianne kept them going, helped them endure, and kept them optimistic and focused on returning home safely. They kept a photograph of me in their helmets. I have the uttermost reverence for what it takes to be one of America's finest, and I am incredibly appreciative of what they do." We have no doubt that the veterans appreciate the efforts of her as well. There was almost a fourth movie. Schwartz had a concept for a fourth film in which the castaways learned that a nuclear conflict eradicated human civilization. Bob Denver, or Gilligan, stated, "The seven of us believe it's ruined, so we'll all get married. Gilligan would marry Mary Ann and the couple would have a daughter. And then there's a Blue Lagoon sequence in which the children grow up. So when Gilligan's son reaches the age of 20, he sails off to determine whether the world is truly ended, which it hasn't. They heard about it on the radio, and Gilligan revealed it just prior to the disclaimer. That would make a fascinating movie." There was a plan to add an animated dinosaur to the show. In his book, Inside Gilligan's Island, Sherwood Schwartz mentioned that a Gilligan dinosaur was almost included. During a meeting with CBS programming executive Hunt Stromberg Jr., Stromberg proposed the concept of Gilligan keeping a wandering dinosaur as a companion. Schwartz recalls Stromberg's enthusiasm when he explained it. He said, "Just imagine it, Gilligan and his dinosaur companion. It's our response to Mr. Ed." Schwartz disapproved of the proposal and asserted that there was insufficient budget to implement it. It's probably for the best because it's odd to imagine a small dinosaur roaming the island with the castaways. They didn't film on an actual island. It may have appeared to be an oasis, but the island was actually a set constructed by CBS in 1964 in Studio City, California, specifically for the program. The initial attempt to film the first 2 episodes in Malibu was unsuccessful due to dense smog and a lot of standing around. However, being in the studio presented its own challenges. An issue was the traffic that could be heard nearby. When this occurred, filming had to be halted because it was so noisy. Another issue was when the water temperature during the winter remained at 40 degrees. To avoid shivering in the lagoon water, Bob Denver had to don a neoprene underneath his costume. Following the conclusion of filming in 1995, the lagoon was converted into a parking lot. The show was canceled to free the time slot. Monday evenings at 7:30 p.m. during the 1966 to 1967 season of the program, its competition for the 7:30 p.m. time slot was The Monkees, which also broadcast on NBC. Around this time, CBS was in the process of discontinuing the long-running Saturday night program Gunsmoke. Due to pressure from William S. Paley and other long-standing admirers, CBS was compelled to reschedule Gunsmoke to Mondays at 7:30 p.m. This resulted in the abrupt cancellation of Gilligan's Island, which occurred while the cast was on vacation. There was a spin-off that didn't make it past the first season. Former CBS president Jim Aubrey disliked Gilligan's Island and had modest expectations for the show's success. He decided to create a spin-off titled The Baileys of Balboa, which he believed would endure. It debuted during the same season. The purpose of the program was a battle of pride. Aubrey wanted to establish that Gilligan's Island would have been superior if he'd been allowed to use his original concept. The Baileys of Balboa followed the Bailey family, who resided in a beach resort, and they frequently clashed with their wealthy neighbors. After the first season, the program was terminated due to its low ratings, and Aubrey was dismissed from the network. The movie was meant to tie up loose ends after the cancellation. The abrupt cancellation of the program left so many unaddressed concerns. One of them was probably, were they ever rescued, or did they spend the rest of their lives on the island? They were ultimately rescued, but it was not depicted on the program. The cliffhanger at the conclusion of the third season was resolved in a 1978 reunion film titled Rescue from Gilligan's Island. The film performed well at the box office and was praised by admirers of the show. The second film, titled Castaways on Gilligan's Island, was then produced. Schwartz's legacy lives on. Gilligan's Island is still broadcast on television, and there have been numerous musical adaptations of the series over the years. Surprisingly, the program is a significant success in Australia, alongside the Brady Bunch, another Sherwood Schwartz creation. Hope Juber, the daughter of Schwartz, disclosed to MeTV.com that she continues to communicate with Russell Johnson's daughter and Alan Hale Jr.'s granddaughter. The Skipper's headwear, which Hale gave to Juber's father many years ago, is still in her possession. Alan Hale Jr. presented Schwartz with the bronzed hat as a meaningful and sentimental gesture, she explained. I believe that by bronzing the headwear, not only was it protected and preserved, but it was also immortalized. Jerry Van Dyke almost got the lead. Schwartz hoped that Jerry Van Dyke would portray the role of Gilligan, but Van Dyke didn't like the script. He even claimed that the pilot script was the worst thing I'd ever read. Later, he took on the main role in My Mother the Car. Van Dyke recalls, "I had a lot of difficulties with the agency because they tried to persuade me to accept Gilligan's Island, but that's the jest. I turned it down and accepted My Mother the Car. However, it was for the best, as I would have been eternally known as Gilligan, so that also worked out." Alan Hale Jr. traveled to his audition via horseback. Given that the skipper is a hard-as-nails character, it makes sense that Alan Hale Jr. rode a horse to the audition. He was also the last character to be cast, as Schwartz had difficulty locating the perfect individual for the part. He sought out a powerful, imposing actor capable of portraying the skipper's tough but gentle personality. Hale was in St. George, Utah, filming Bullet for a Bad Man when he received a summons to audition for Gilligan's Island. Because he was so occupied, he was unable to get time off the set for a screen test. After a day of filming, he decided to slip away. To read a passage with Bob Denver, he traveled to Los Angeles via horseback, hitchhiking, aircraft, and taxi. The estate of Dawn Wells still receives royalties thanks to a smart business move. The original actors signed contracts guaranteeing a certain amount of money per episode, in addition to compensation for up to 5 repeats of each episode. The spouse of Dawn Wells, Larry Rosen, who was a talent agent at the time, recommended a fantastic concept that would benefit her. He recommended that Wells request a change to that clause in her contract. The producers concurred, as they didn't anticipate that the series would still be airing 50 years later. Due to the amendment, only Wells' estate and the late Sherwood Schwartz estate continued to receive money from the program. On December 30th, 2020, Wells passed away at a convalescent home at the age of 82. Her demise was related to COVID-19.